Good morning, folks. Today I'm going to take you on a hiking trip and show you how to create a cinematic vlog using the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro that I'm filming on right now, so that by the end of this video you will be able to understand how to use this camera and also create a cinematic vlog for yourself. And what I really like about the Action 5 Pro is that it's portable. You can easily bring it along, including the accessories to capture your shots more effectively. So let's talk about the camera settings I'm using on the DJI Action 5 Pro. So I will be using the DJI Mimo app. I have the iPhone connected to the Action 5 Pro. This way I can do a screen recording and show you exactly what settings I'm using. So first up is resolution and frame rate. I shoot in 4K 25 frames per second. 4K gives me the highest quality possible and also allows me to reframe the shot without much quality loss. 25 frames per second is sort of the regular speed and provides a more cinematic look in my videos. You can also shoot in 24 frames per second, but because I'm in Europe, I choose 25. But if you plan on slowing down the clip, then I recommend shooting in 50 or 60 frames per second. So next up, let's look at the additional video settings by tapping over here. So I have the Pro mode enabled. This allows me to manually dial in the camera settings. We'll get into that later. Then as of the field of view, I use the ultra wide. This way I can fit more in the frame and have a wider field of view. As for the image stabilization, I use rock steady, and with rock steady stabilization enabled, it will compensate for the camera shakes, providing a more smoother looking footage. I also have the grids enabled. This way I get the rule of thirds and can frame myself or the shot properly. Now, in terms of white balance, I leave it in custom. Don't set it to auto, otherwise you will experience color shifts in your video, which is hard to fix later in the edit. I also have overexposure alert. And what it does is if you have an overexposed shot in your image, you can see you will get these stripes which indicate overexposure. My skin is a little bit overexposed and you want to prevent that. So right now you can see there are no zebra stripes, which tells me that this is a well-exposed image. By dialing the proper settings for shutter speed, ISO, and using a VND filter, you can control how much light enters the camera, but we'll get into that in just a bit. As for the color mode, I shoot in D-Log-M 10-bit, which gives me the highest quality, and this way I can shoot in a flat picture profile, which preserves the highlights and shadows, giving me more flexibility when color grading in the edit. So let's now look at the manual camera settings that I dial in by selecting M. You can see the shutter speed is set to 1/50, which gives me that natural motion blur you're seeing. And this just provides a more natural look to my video. In terms of the ISO, I've set a range between 100 and 800. So the lowest ISO would be 100. And whenever I move into a dark area, it will adjust the ISO. This way I don't always have to change my ND filter. Also very important, the exposure value below I set to -0.3. So when I remove the VND, you can see that everything is overexposed. And for a sunny day like today, I'm using the ND32. So when I slap that on it, we have a well-exposed image. Next would be to use the DJI Mic 2 transmitter to capture high quality audio. And you can see I have it mounted onto this strap on my backpack, and you can see the audio quality sounds pretty good. It's also not windy outside. That's why I'm not using a windshield. And I highly recommend using an external mic instead of the built-in mic on the Action 5 Pro. It doesn't sound that bad, but to me, audio is really important and I want to get the highest quality possible. And this is how it sounds like using the internal mic on the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. Now, the internal mic isn't that bad on the Action 5 Pro camera, but if I want to be further away from the camera while still capturing high quality audio, a wireless mic is crucial. Now, one accessory that I like to use when filming myself on the go is to use the multifunctional handle. I can be further away from the camera. I'm able to create more steadier shots instead of having to hold the camera this way. The next tip I have for you guys is to to film handheld with the Action 5 Pro. And because the image stabilization is so good, you can create smooth shots with it. Now, I like to use the multifunctional handle because this way I can hold the grip and add more contact points to create smoother shots. And this way you don't only have to film yourself, but can also film the environment around you to add more context to your videos. You can see the view is amazing. The next tip I have for you is to include static shots. And for that, I like to use the Lunzi MT44 tripod that has a built-in extension pole, allowing me to raise the camera to the perfect height, giving me more flexibility to position the camera. And this way I can capture a variety of shots of myself. Now, while those static shots lack camera movement, if you want, you can also add a digital zoom to fake that camera movement. And to have more flexibility in the edit, I like to use the 3-shot rule. So I would get a wide shot of me, a medium shot, and a close-up. In this way, you can create a more complete scene. Now, another way to get creative shots is to use a magic arm with a clamp. This way, you can clamp it almost on anything to get, for example, a top-down perspective mounted onto the seat, which in the end makes your video look more engaging. And what's really cool about the Action cameras from DJI is that you have these quick release mounts, which makes it easy to switch between different accessories. Now, I got some bad news. I unfortunately lost my DJI Mic 2 transmitter. I have no idea where it is, but I still have my footage and I can still use the internal mic on my Action 5 Pro, which is great as long as I'm close to the camera. Anyway, the next tip I have for you is to include POV shots in your video. What's cool is that you get this first-person view perspective, and for that you can use the magnetic chest mount that I got from Amazon, and the magnets are very strong, so you don't have to worry about it falling off. So if you quickly want to capture handheld shots, you can do that, and then if you want the POV shot, you just snap it on the chest. So my next tip is to use the suction cup from Joby to mount it on a window. For example, I used that technique on the gondola as I came up here, and it worked pretty well. I got some unique perspectives. This would have been harder to achieve when done with a tripod, for example. So it's gotten dark pretty fast, so I'm heading back. Now, if you want to learn more about DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro, be sure to check out this video right here. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out, and see you in the next one.